Hello and welcome to the SPSF Meadow Sub. I'm Eric Miller and I'll be your host tonight, of course. And thanks for everybody who could join, and hoping that we'll get a fair amount of people tonight. This is usually a pretty good time that works well for me anyways, because it's after I put the kids to bed, and so I've got a little bit of time that I can do some things in the layout. So I just wanted to take some time and give you a layout tour. And really wanted to do three things. Wanted to give you the layout tour, show you some projects that I've been working on, and then go into some questions and answers. So if you have any questions at all during this time, feel free to let me know. Just simply ask and I'll get to them. So again, I've got the camera faced away or I can't see the screen. I've got the screen away from me so that everything it looks normal to you. So from time to time I'll just go up and check the questions. So I guess without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So one thing I want to mention though before I get started is I have a lot of resources on my website, www.spsfrailway.com, and so if you go there, you can download the track plan, you can see the job descriptions, get more information on the layout. So that might be helpful as we go around here just to orient yourself. And we got Chessie coming to visit us tonight. This is Chessie, my cat. She's like just turned 12 years old a week or two ago, so she's getting up there in age. But all right, so even though she wants to sit in my lap now, I think we're going to go ahead and go around and take a tour of the layout. All right, Chessie? Sorry. Okay, so I'll start with the diesel shops area. And all right. So I'm going to start from east to west with the layout tour here, and that's kind of makes the most sense, I think. And so the furthest east is the South Omaha diesel shops, and so a lot of this hopefully looks familiar with the pictures that I've been posting on Facebook and whatnot. So hopefully you kind of see this, but I hope this tour will give you a better idea of how everything's oriented here. So we got the diesel shops here, basic diesel house. This is a project that I started last year. Haven't quite finished it yet. Obviously, I want to do more scenery. This is also the Omaha staging area for Union Pacific, Amtrak, and the Burlington Northern. I'm going to get into the Burlington Northern a little bit later because it's a new project that I'm working on right now. Ultimately, see this track back here, where you can see the Union Pacific train stage. I kind of want to cover that with trees and some vegetation, so it's a little more hidden. Still have access to it, but since that's kind of a different part of Omaha, you're really not supposed to see that. But this is the SPSF diesel shops. This is where all the Kodachromes hang out and get serviced. So I've got two 6-axle consists that run the unit grain train. This one, and I should mention that I can switch these up if I want to. This one's got the C41-8W with the C39-8E, both Atlas units, and here we've got the Caddo C44-9W, which is one of my favorite locomotives, and then this is a Proto 2000 SD60. And so for a little variety, I can swap these locomotives. We've got some visiting power back here too. We've got a New York Central SD80 Mac that's being tested, and we've got a Western SD90 Mac H with the full 6,000 horsepower. And then back here we've got the Jeep 35. The Jeep 35 is a new addition that I just added a couple months ago because I wanted to have a backup power for either the local or the switcher job in case something happens. I really tried to simplify my diesel roster, then I figured out I think I simplified it a little too much. And so I think it's good to have some spares, especially during op sessions. And then this is the switcher, the SW1500, that usually runs the switcher job, obviously. And then we've got our little yard office over here. So continuing west, we got the South Omaha yard along here. So it's pretty simple yard. We've got this, I like to keep this track for through running, and then these are the yard tracks. Like to have one track open for transfers and run-throughs for when the crews are switching. Generally I have one track for the Meadow turn, which is the local job, and then the switcher job, and then another track that I use for the unit grain train. So And then back there is the Union Pacific track that keeps going around. And then above that, this is the line that goes up to South Omaha Terminal, which is an extension that I built a few years ago. And then at the end of the yard is the little caboose track where I got a couple of way cars, both Atlas wide vision cabooses. Try to stick with the Santa Fe prototype as much as I can, and then I got a little spot over here for some maintenance away. So this is Chicago, Rock Island, and Pacific Junction, which is where the Rock Island would have come over from the Union Pacific in South Omaha. And so this is where the Union Pacific transfer then accesses the Meadow Sub. And so I try to keep it separate through here. So this area back here, I'll just show you, is South Omaha. And we've got some industries over here that I'll show you. Right up here is Omaha Paper Stock, which is a newspaper recycling or paper recycling company. Gets 60-foot box cars. And then the big industry back here, which is a work in progress, is Conagra. Conagra gets grain cars from Union Pacific, and then they also ship bagged flour in box cars, and also they ship out flour in these pressure hoppers, which come out onto the SPSF. And so that's the main industry back here. And then this industry in the forefront is Darling, which is a rendering plant. And so Darling actually has 2 locations on the Meadow Sub. They've got this one and then the one up on South Omaha Terminal, which is similar to how they used to exist in South Omaha, where they had one part that would ship tallow in tank cars, and then the other part would ship out bone meal and covered hoppers. So now I'll show you Sot Junction, which is where the South Omaha Terminal comes into. So you can see the sign. I don't know if you can see that. That's Sot Junction. So this track here in the center is the one that comes from the South Omaha Terminal extension. And then this track in the forefront is coming from the SPSF South Omaha Yard. And then this is the connection from the UP. Again, this layout is based on a Rock Island main line that used to go southwest of Omaha and continue all the way to Denver. So in my world, it was kept as a branch line truncated at Meadow, which is the last spot just before the Platte River Bridge. So just a little background there. So that's why there's a former Rock Island. And then another part of my history is that when the SPSF came to town, they bought the South Omaha Terminal Railroad. So I'll show you that extension real quick. After I built the layout, I built this extension up here because I wanted some more industries. And so this is just a simple shelf up here. I always tell people that if I had to compress my layout, I could just be happy with the South Omaha Terminal area. It's got a lot of switching opportunities. It's got some customers up here, so I really like that. So I'll show you a little bit. And one note is that all of these industries are actual real companies that exist in the Omaha area. Most of them are in the South Omaha Bellevue area. Some of them aren't. Some of them I borrowed from other areas. Ready Mix Concrete is actually a Lincoln company. I wanted this Ready Mix Concrete company because they're part of a larger conglomerate which is called Nebco, which also owns Western Sand and Gravel, which they also own the OL&B Railway. So I wanted to incorporate all that on my layout, and so that's why Ready Mix is up here. And the South Omaha Terminal is actually a double track light rail line, and so that's why you see this light rail vehicle, the catenary poles. So this can only be switched at night when the light rail is not running, which is similar to places in San Diego and Salt Lake City that I visited. And then back here is in the background we've got Millard Refrigerated, Bemis Paper Packaging over there, and then this is the other part of Darling up here. So that's the South Omaha Terminal. Now we'll get to the rest of the layout. So the South Omaha Terminal is usually switched first. When I do an op session, the switcher crew does that first. We start early in the morning, and then that way they can get that done before the light rail starts running. So after South Omaha, we get into Bellevue, which is this area here on the left. This is the Bellevue Station. This is where Amtrak stops. We also can have private cars or business cars over here. It can also be used for, you know, off spots or staging locomotives. So it's kind of nice having the station, a little variety of uses. So after Bellevue, then we start getting into a couple of other industries. On the left here is Lazier, and this is a project that I got to bring the tripod through here. Okay, so this is a recent project. I'm just starting to work on the building here. As you can see, I've kind of got a little bit of a mess here. I was kind of hoping to get this mostly done before RockyOp starts, comes to town in May. We'll see how much I can get done. But I basically have laid out all the pieces to it. And so I figured out, okay, this is what I need to build it. And so I've got all the structures that I've bought like 5, 6, 7 years ago. So everything down here on the floor that you see. I've used the Bud's Trucking Company. I bought 3 of those. And then, what was the other one that I bought? This one, Peterson Tool Specialties. They're all the same kind of kit, or the same look to it, but I'll put it together, assemble it, and paint a different color. But that's the basis of what I'm starting with. Lazier is a real company in Omaha. They're actually in North Omaha, but they're a pretty big company. So trying to stay true to how their building and everything looks like. And so I'm going to repaint this. This will kind of be an off-white structure because that's how it really looks. Industries, you know, modern industries aren't too snazzy. They're pretty boring, so I'm going to try to stay true to that. And then this little area here is what I call Bellevue Yard. See these cars staged here. This is where we'll do the interchange with Union Pacific, and we can also do some switching and staging of cars between sessions. And back here we get into the Husker Industrial Park. This is based on reconstructing an area that used to be an old stockyards company. And so my theory is that after the company closed in the late 60s, at that time Rock Island worked and redeveloped it as an industrial park. So I've got 5 main companies back here. This first one off to the left is Sutherland's, which gets drywall supply. It's a lumber or a construction type company. Up here is Bellevue Leader, which is a printing press. Then back here is Airlight Plastics obviously. And then I got a salvage yard back here, Alter Metal Recycling. And then over here is Standard Distribution, which gets a variety of box cars for warehousing. So this is probably a good time to point out one of my recent projects was building, getting all of my streets finished for my last op session. And so this will give you a good idea of one right here. I did a variety of techniques for the actual crossings. Like some I made little mats. These are actually AccuRail mats here. I tried those out. I really wanted to try some of the BLMA mats, but they're not available right now, so I had to think of other ideas. And this is wood crossings, which I just built with using old plastic ties, which is very labor intensive. So that's the only crossing I did like that. But this really helps with the op sessions because the crew knows where the roads are, where to blow the horn. You know, they know when you're doing a reverse move, you have to flag it, that sort of thing. So it really helps with that. So, and we'll just continue down the line. So after Bellevue, you start getting into the rural area. We've got a creek that we cross here. Papillion is kind of a suburb before you really get into the rural area. But after this, we'll get more into it. We've got a couple industries here. One is a basic bulk transfer facility called Bulk West. My friend Matt helped me with that name. And so this is a dry bulk and liquid bulk. This was something that I just finished before the last op session, is paving this with the asphalt, and I'll get into adding more detail and scenery eventually. And this is another recent road that I finished. A lot of roads, what I'll do is for the like a concrete or asphalt is just cut the styrene. And I use Lance Midheim's example. It's on his website with how he does streets with the styrene. So, and then over here we've got Bayliss Lumberyard, and they get obviously flat cars and box cars of lumber. So I'll show you my other streets. Pause and take a look at them. these are the first two that I did late last year over like Christmas break. These two are both in South Omaha. And this is another one where I used the AccuRail rubber mats. This one I think is kind of interesting because back here you can see where it used to be a switch and it was torn out. And so when they redid the street through here, obviously they didn't have to go around the switch since it was cut out because the industry was abandoned. The railroad didn't want to have to deal with the maintenance on the frog. So pretty prototypical. Another thing I want to point out, I'm going to be adding some signals to a couple of crossings because most of this is, you know, a branch line doesn't get a lot of traffic. Most of mine don't really need signals, right? But there's a couple crossings that I really want some better protection at. And I think those will help with crews also. So for this one, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to have some traffic lights that will control the signals. So you'll have lights for the cars in each direction. And then you'll also have lights for the operators in both directions. And I'm going to set it up so that the operators can actually throw a switch to get their priority to move the train through here. And that way, as the operators are running this, they can actually just, you know, set it up so they get they get access through there, and then it'll really help because you're at the end of this yard, and if you need to do a little bit of switching, you get, you know, full authority to go through. It's safe, it's clear, no question about it. And then when you're done, you turn it back over to the traffic. So pretty cut and dry. I've seen this example. There's a couple places nearby here in the Denver area where I got this idea from. So I think that'll be really cool, and it'll be really helpful because this street, which is actually based partly on a street in the Omaha area, where you've got a railroad bridge and then another track right here, it's a little tricky to see the trains. And so I think having the signals for the traffic will really help. It'll help bring that up to safety. And then you always want to keep the Public Utilities Commission happy, right? The other one that I'm going to do a signal at is here at 72nd Street. This street in real life has a lot of traffic on it. And so even though there's only, maybe 2 trains a day through here, 2 or 3 at the most, there's a lot of traffic. And so what I'm going to do is have a Walther's modern cantilevered signal up here. And I'll have sensors for it, which should be pretty simple to do, I'm hoping, to set up. We'll see. I've never done this before, so I'll let y'all know how it goes. But basically, we'll set up the sensors like here, 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 and then the lights will be here, and then the train comes through, it starts flashing, and so that way it will give you some better protection. And then also when the crews, because the crews are switching this industry, they reverse back here, right? So then they won't have to flag it with the signals there. So I think that'll really be helpful. And then you just have to worry about flagging this crossing over here for the truck access. And then same with this area over here where you have this street, you won't have to flag. The other street here, you'll still have to flag, but that's the only one. So it keeps the operator interest, I think, up. And also this one I think will be really fun for operators because they'll be able to flip the signal. So those are a couple projects that I'm working on. Let me finish the tour real quick and then we'll get into some other projects. So then we get out into the rural area. This is Richfield, which is just a small, almost ghost town now. You can see some of these, this is just going to be a gravel road, so I just did the concrete part of it for now. So that way operators can still at least figure out where the crossing is. Now we're getting into Platford. This is Western Sand and Gravel. They've got a little road that goes across there, and then a couple spur tracks back there. So this is a sand pit, so sand and gravel comes out of here. And then we're getting into Meadow. This is the Meadow siding where you can do a runaround and with your trains down here. And then now we're in the exciting town of Meadow. And so this is the layout ends way back there. You might hear Chessie. I think she wants some water, so we'll have to give her some. She loves the sink down here. So this is another project that I finished up, another grade crossing. As you can see, let's see, I got one of these legs a little too short. There you go. This one was a little more involved than the others because it's street running, and I wanted to have some street running. I think it's really cool to have this, especially in a quiet town where it's not really going to be a bother to the residents. It should be fine. So anyways, this I did some brick streets on with the concrete down the track through here. So, and then I just basically used the Walthers brick street inserts, and then I added a little bit of like a concrete wash or a whitewash to give it a little bit of a mortar look there. So this one took a little bit more time. I wanted to finish this before my op session. I at least got this part done, the concrete, and then I had to finish the brick part later. So you can see I've still got some scenery to do, but it's getting close. And then this is the Amtrak Kansas City staging back here. The Amtrak train runs through Bellevue, comes off here. I forgot to show that to you, but it's it's got a switch that's protected by a signal over there. And then we get to the co-op, the grain elevator. So this is just part of the structure. I'm going to build another. It will have another loadout over here, which will also help hide the Amtrak staging. And then I'm going to expand that one further down so it'll look a little bit bigger. But this site we got one track for this loadout here, another track for this loadout, and then a couple yard tracks, and then a runaround track. So that's the Meadow Sub. For those of you who haven't seen it before, again, might want to check out the track plan on my website, spsfrailway.com. I'll give you a better idea of how this all works. So now I'll finish going through the projects. One that I want to talk about, since we're in this area, is I'm working on a switcher for the OLMB that'll be based at Western Sand and Gravel. You might have seen this. I posted it before. I'm hoping to get this painted this weekend. So this is just a Bachmann S4. I really like it. I got it for only $100 at Train World. It has DCC and sound, so it's perfect. It's ready to go. And so all I have to do is paint this. And then I've also made a shorty caboose to go with it because it's got a shoving move, so I wanted a caboose. So I basically took an Athian bay window caboose and shortened it. I just cut the ends off and put it together. So, and these are my weights. These glued in pennies. I didn't feel like cutting the weight, so I just did the pennies. But yeah, so that's that project. Like I said, hoping to get that done this weekend. We'll see. Stay tuned on that one. Now we'll go back and I'll show you some other fun projects that I've been working on. One that I'll show you, the next one I'll show you is I've got a system where I can give a crew instructions at an industry. And again, this is an idea that I got from Lance Midheim. So at each session I give each crew keys. Here we go. Each crew has 2 of these. They have, let's see if I can back this up a little bit so you can get in there and show you. So each crew gets the key, and it just goes into these locks here, one way or another. There we go. And then you open this door, and then what I'll do is I'll put a sticky note right here for the crew, and I'll say, like, this is for Millard. So notice it says spot cars at doors on the track diagram, and it says 1 and 2. Well, the JMRI will tell you to drop the car off at Millard. It won't tell you which door, which is fine, because that's up to the industry to decide, right? So then the industry foreman leaves you a note and tells you, I want, the new car at door 2. So like this car's at door 1. If you pick it up and you have to drop off another car, where do you drop it off? Door 1 or 2? So then it'll tell you. So it's kind of a cool thing because it's an extra step for the crew. But it involves a little more time for them, I guess. Makes it a little more realistic. Crews are always unlocking things. So the other thing that I want to get into in the future is getting locks for gates. I haven't gotten into that yet. Obviously that kind of comes with scenery because I have to build the gates too, or at least it's helpful if I have the gates. But that's how that works. I just want to show you that. And so what I'll do is, before each op session, I'll just go around and put some sticky notes and figure that out, decide that myself, and think, oh, I'll just, I don't care, I'll put that car on door 2 or whatever. It's kind of fun because it lets me be able to make up something, since JMRI is doing all the other work. So that's another project. Okay, what else do I want to show you guys that I've been working on? I guess we'll get into the big project that I've started up. Okay, so as you know, this the layout is entirely SPSF Railway, right? So it's all the track is SPSF. However, we do have a couple transfers. One is the Union Pacific, which is something that I started about a year ago because I wanted to bring in some prototype presence that people would associate with Omaha. To give it some, I wanted this layout to have a little bit more realism to it. So brought in the Union Pacific. Then I came up with the idea for an Iowa Interstate transfer, which was based on the fact that the Iowa Interstate really did have a transfer that went into Omaha, not South Omaha, but it wasn't too much of a stretch to have it come in here. But then I started having qualms about that. I don't know if any of you have this problem, but me as a modeler, I'm always coming up with ideas and then I change things. Sometimes I change things too quickly without giving it enough time or thought, but the Iowa Interstate was one that I thought, no, I don't feel comfortable about it. So then after my last op session, I thought, gee, I'd really like to add another transfer. So here we go again. Well, this time I came up with the idea for a Burlington Northern transfer. And this one I think makes a lot more sense because the Burlington Northern really does come into South Omaha and actually interchanges with the South Omaha terminal. And so even today, now they have an interchange set up with the ancestor to the South Omaha terminal, which is Brandon Railroad. Real exciting name, right? So, but that's what they do. And so I thought, I could incorporate that. So my first thought was I was going to have the transfer just like start on this track on the BN and then come in to the South Omaha yard here. But then I saw this little empty space over here. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. As modelers, we're always thinking, oh, I've got this little nook, this little cranny, I could put something there. So I started thinking, hey, I could put a little yard over here. Yeah, that's what I'll do. And so before this, I had, this was my programming track, and I had my diesel shop start on this end. Well then, after I sold off a ton of locomotives, had a much smaller yard, I condensed it, had the access from the other side. So I had this kind of empty space, and so this fills up the space, and it gives an area to add some cars to, and it also will create some work because then the person who's running the BN transfer can actually come in and switch cars a little bit before and after the transfer. And additionally, I decided to move my U.S. cold storage industry customer down here, which again is just like how the BN does it now with the South Omaha terminal. And also the U.S. cold storage in South Omaha is really on the old South Omaha terminal tracks, and the BN has had trackage rights to it, if I understand this correctly. And so they just switch it. So we'll have the same agreement here, where the BN transfer will come in. This is actually SPSF track, but they'll switch it since they're already interchanging the cars. They might as well just switch it. So that's how we'll do it. So I think it'll work out really nice. And I just ordered the track, got it today, and so I'm excited to get this in. So this is one thing that I definitely want to get done before RockyOp in May. It shouldn't take too long. All I have to do is, it's pretty simple. I left these switches open, like here, you can see when I cut out the yard. I reused some of these old turnouts that I used to have here. So all I have to do is reconnect these. I'm going to put that number 4 turnout up there, and then come down here. I just have to cut in a switch roughly there, and then add another switch there, and everything should work great. So that's the plan. And then something that I've been working on lately, after I thought, well, I should add a BN transfer. I already had a locomotive that I had used for just to like stage to show a BN presence. And so this is a Jeep 30 that I bought from a friend, and he actually just had the shell. And I thought, well, that's perfect, because I just kind of wanted a dummy locomotive to have on the layout. Then I thought, well, I want to power it, so what do I do? So I just bought a new Walters Proto Jeep 30. It came with a Soundtrax Tsunami decoder in it already. Perfect. So I did that, and then I just sold the shell. And then I bought this Atlas Trainman Jeep 38-2 on eBay, and it was already detailed pretty well. I added some eye bolts on the top. I added some decals like the flag here, some other things, little things, just looking at prototype photos. But otherwise, it was already pretty well detailed. It already had the like the coupler cut levers and the MU hoses and the antenna and that, and the brass air horn. So it was pretty nice. The grab irons. So Saved me a lot of work. And then I weathered it just a little bit more too. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is this one is I will add a Tsunami 2 sound decoder to it, and a current keeper and a speaker, and then that can be operated together with the Jeep 30. Actually, Jeep 39M. so yeah, that's the BN transfer. So that's something new. I think those are basically all my projects. What else? I can show you some other roads that I did. This one up here, I ran out of the AccuRail mats. So what I did is I made my own mats in styrene, and I just cut grooves in them and painted it black. And I think it came out pretty well. It does the trick. And the nice thing about doing your own mats is then you can cut them for exactly the area that you need. So I wanted rubber mats in that area because that's a light rail line, and it needed that. And that's a spot that actually I might want to be a candidate for flashing signals of some sort. And then my other grade crossing up here, which you can barely see because of the trucks, kind of bring you in there, right there. So that's a street right as you come up into the extension. So I think those are all my streets. So those are all the projects that I have. I'm trying to, now that I basically have all my freight cars and my locomotives done, I'm trying to transition into doing more scenery. So you'll be able to look forward to that in the future. Okay, so let's go, now that we did the layout tour, I showed you my projects, let's go into some Q&A. So I'll come back here and I'll read the questions to you. Bring this down. And again, thanks for everybody that's joined in here. We're at about half an hour now. I think we'll maybe do like 10 or 15 more minutes. Feel free to ask questions. And for those of you who couldn't join, feel free to post a question and I'll answer it later. So let's see. So Scott Dolank says, I've been following your page for a while. Really enjoy seeing your models. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for the comment. Michael says, excellent. Thanks, Mike. And Rich says, like the progress you're making on the layout. Thanks. Yeah, it definitely takes time. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you could have a number of excuses for why things don't get done as fast as you'd like them, but having a couple kids, it does definitely eats into your modeling time. But you know, what I try to tell people is just try to take a little bit of time every day, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes, you'll be surprised at how much you can do. So, well, I will give you some time to answer some more questions, and I'll do an unboxing. So I got this box today from ModelTrendStuff.com, which is one of my favorite hobby stores. I'm sure a lot of people know about it. So this should be my track and some other things. So we'll just take a look and see what's in it. And judging by the size of the box, you know it's track. I always put a ton of styrofoam in there. Alright, so I really like the micro-engineering track the best. I like it because it's weathered already. I find it easy to bend and whatnot. First, what did I do? Oh, I think I could buy less Atlas track. For whatever reason, I went with the Atlas track this time. I've got both on the layout. Like I said, I like micro-engineering better, but this will be fine for my little project. So that's what I ended up getting. This is just Atlas Code 83 Flex track. So that'll go. This is for the new BN yard. And what else do we have in here? We got a BN hopper for the BN transfer. I found out that this is one thing you'll find. So with the transfer, now you know, cars that used to just come out of the South Omaha yard now have to go from the BN yard to the South Omaha yard, then to the customer. So you kind of need to double the amount of cars that you have. And so I realized that I didn't have a good representation of BN freight cars. So I thought, well, I'll buy a few more here and there. So this is a BN covered hopper. It's ready to roll, so I'll just put it on the layout. I'll just have it hang out here at the BN yard for now. All right. So a lot of stuff that I do, by the way, for my layout is, my theory is get it operational first, then go back and weather it when you have time. A lot of my projects I'll weather when I'm doing the project. It's a little bit easier that way. But then again, you have to think, well, I want this in the next op session. So basically I only have maybe half a dozen or so projects or cars that I don't have running yet, and everything else is running. So I think that's a good philosophy. Just thought I'd share that with y'all. And then at the same time, again, I really like the Pico Turnouts the best. I think I usually get the Insel Frogs that work pretty well with DCC, and they come with the spring already in the switch, so you don't need a turnout. But these are cheaper, and I've already dealing with Atlas turnouts over there, so I just thought I'll get Atlas turnouts. So again, it's not like, you know, I prefer one over the other, but it's not a big deal if I get the other kind too. So that works. Now there should be one more thing in here, and that is I got another throttle, the Cabo 6 for the layout. Now this one is so I've started out with two positions for my op sessions. So the local and the switcher, and they each have conductor and engineer. But then what I've been doing is adding some more work, and I tried out this position last time, and so now I've got like a utility position that runs the UP transfer, the Amtrak, and the BN transfer, and also serves as a utility, or an industry foreman. and it's worked out really well. And so I didn't think it would be a full-time job at first, and it was going to be something that I was going to run. But then at the last session, I realized, hey, it really can be a full-time job. So I decided to get another throttle. Now this one I'm excited about because it's got the potentiometer. I think that's how it's pronounced. Anyways, so basically it stops on this end and goes up to the other end, so it doesn't keep spinning. So that way you know when your train is stopped. So a lot of you might know that last fall I switched the DCC system from Digitrax to NCE. One of the things I did like about the Digitrax throttles is that they had this, and so I kind of wanted to get that on these throttles. And I didn't realize there was a difference at first, so I bought the other two initially without the potentiometer. So anyway, so this will give the crew some options if one of them wants it. So that's that. So that's cool. That's here. So that's ready for RockyOp. Oh, and just a side note, in the April Model Railroad Hobbyist, I've got an article in there about how I changed my DCC systems. It's kind of interesting because it's gotten a lot more response on the forum than I thought it would. So I didn't realize it would be so controversial, but I guess it is. But anyways, again, it's not like it's like Atlas or Pico or Atlas or Micro Engineering. It's not like I hate one or the other. I just kind of like NC a little bit better. I'm sure Digitrax would still be fine too if I could have gotten it to work. But anyway, just a little side note there. So yeah, that's model train stuff, and now I've got a big box of peanuts. All right, well, let's see if we got any other questions. So let's see. Scott says, "Who makes the track Atlas?" Yeah, that's what I was talking about. And then yeah, Atlas turnouts as well. So and like I mentioned, you know, I like either one, but I just thought for this one, you know, I've got Atlas up there already, so I'll just show you that real quick. I got some time, I might work on this project after I'm done with the video. So when I first started my layout, I basically used all of Atlas because I bought everything in bulk. I bought everything that, you know, I thought I had everything, you know, I was like, this is what I need for the layout. So I bought it all, and this is what I have. So, and it's kind of true, but then I went back and changed a lot of things. But anyway, so this area, you know, one of the original areas had the Atlas turnouts, and so they're a little bit cheaper, and I thought, I'll just use the Atlas. But an example of where I use Picos is up here in the South Omaha Terminal extension. I don't know if any of you remember, but like, when was it, back in like 2010, 2011, something like that? No, maybe a little bit later, 2012, something. Atlas had this problem with one of their Chinese manufacturers, and they weren't making stuff, and you couldn't get Atlas track. And so that's really when I started using microengineering and Pico. And I actually really liked them. And so I'm kind of glad that happened, because it gave me a chance to try something else out. And I got to thinking, you know, microengineering is made here in the US. I'd rather do that. So, and what I really like is their weathered track, especially for concrete ties, because then it's already weathered and you don't have to worry about it. I'll show you that my Atlas concrete tie track and what I did to it. But yeah, I like the Pico switches, and I think these are number 5s, which are really cool because this area is, you know, industrial switching, 4 axles and whatnot. I didn't need number 4, or I didn't need number 6s. Number 5s are nice because they give you a little bit extra you know, curvature, so trains flow a little bit smoother, but they're still pretty tight for an industrial area, so I like that. So that's what I've got up here. That's an example. These are all Pico Turnouts and microengineering track. So then I'll take you down to the area where I added, where I've got Atlas concrete ties. So right here, this is in my original area. So what I did here is I just painted it myself. And what I did is I basically used like blue painter's tape and cut it and taped the ties, and then painted rust around everything else, and tried to, as much as I could, get this area where you'd have your clips, because those are rust colored as well. So that's how I painted it myself. A bit of a pain. And so that's why, again, I really like the microengineering concrete ties. And here's another one with the weathered ties. The one drawback to the weathered ties is obviously the tops of the rails weathered too. But I just use this little, I'll show you what I use to clean my track, and it just comes right off after. It doesn't, you don't have to grind it too hard. But yeah, I just use one of these little abrasive pads to clean the track, since I can access all my track. So yeah, and that clean off the weathering track. So unfortunately here, I'm gonna have to paint all the track myself, but this is a small area. It shouldn't take too long. So just a few minutes with the airbrush. Or what I might do is, although that might stink up the house a little bit. I was thinking about trying Lance Minheim's method of using the spray cans. But I always use water-based paints, and which are a lot easier to use inside the house. And the spray cans I don't try to use inside the house, so that might be interesting. So anyways, yeah, I'll keep you posted on how that project goes. So that's just my thoughts on the track. All right, so let's see. And then Scott asked Code 83. Yeah, so the ones I bought today are Code 83. In general, I like Code 83. I have a couple of instances. I'll just show you real quick what they look like. I have a couple instances where I use other track. This is Code 70 here. I bought some Code 70 for like some other industrial areas, and I thought, well, I'll use it for the siding. And so what I did here is I took out some of the ties, so the tie spacing was a little bit wider. And then with the Code 70 track, that way you can easily tell what's the main line and what's the siding. So, you know, that might be the only, because I took out the other spot that I had Code 70 track, so that might be the only spot where I have Code 70. I don't know if this is Code 70 here. I can't remember. But otherwise, I use 83. I really like that. I think it's a pretty good compromise between, you know, a realistic scale and also giving you good reliability, which I always place reliability and operations above looks any day of the week, because you want your trains to run well and you want to have a good op session. Bottom line. Through the yard, I actually have Code 100 track. This is a lot of old Atlas track that I bought from a friend. And at the time I was planning this to be more of a hidden staging yard and not really use as much as it is today. But anyways, this is all Code 100. So, and then Code 100 up here. I like Code 100 for yards, like places that aren't supposed to be visible, because you don't care about the looks, and your trains will run better through there a little bit. But I don't know, 83 is fine too. If I had to do it all over again, I'd probably just stick with 83, but it's not too hard to do the transitions. So let's see. All right, so Scott's got another question. I've noticed you do a lot of custom painting, like your locomotives and cars. What kind of paint do you use? Good question. I'll show you. I'll just go over and get my paint. And again, this is totally up to you. Oh, yeah, you. All right, hold on. I'm coming. I'm gonna try to find. Sorry, I'm back. I just wanted to get some real paint. So this is like caboose red. This is what I'm going to paint my OL&B stuff with. So I guess it's handy that I got this out now. I really prefer Badger Model Flex paint. It's basically it's ready to use an airbrush with. Sometimes I'll thin it a little bit more even. One of the tricks that I use, and I've heard somebody say like, don't do this because it's going to ruin the finish on your models. Well, I've been doing this for like over a dozen years and it's been okay. But I'll put a little bit of Windex in it too to dilute it, and it just seems to make it flow through the airbrush better. But yeah, so that's what I like, is the Badger Model Flex paint. Other than that, let's see, Badger Model Flex still makes paint, so that's good. I used to thin Flow Cool, Polyscale, back when they made that, if there was a color that wasn't available. So now what I do is I buy the tester's color and thin that if I need to. So I just like acrylics. I get pretty good results in acrylics, and it's a lot easier to clean and it's a lot less toxic and harmful. So yep. So let me go put this paint back real quick. Turn the water off for the cat. Sorry, I forgot the cat wanted water too. Alright, so I think we'll wrap things up here unless anybody else has any questions. I'll just do a little outro. Let's see. Never tried the Badger. Oh, Scott says he's never tried the Badger paint. Yeah, give it a shot. I don't know. It's pretty cheap too. I like it, but again, it's totally up to you. Whatever you want to do. So just experiment with it, and you can always try getting a cheap freight car or something and doing a little experiment with it. So all right, but again, thanks for everybody who could see this. I'll put this up on YouTube probably. I really like doing these layout tours, and also let me know like if there's a better time that works. I don't know if like a Saturday afternoon would be better or something, but like I said, this works pretty well for me because the kids are in bed and got the no interruptions, so got a little bit of quiet time. So yeah, and then just if you have any questions at all, just let me know. Be happy to show you whatever you want in future videos. If you want to see something in particular, just let me know. So thanks again for joining, and hope this was helpful. And again, make sure to visit my website, spsfrailway.com, where I've got all the documents and stuff for more information on the layout. And be on the lookout for the projects that I'll be doing, the OL&B switcher and caboose and the BN yard, so should be good. And then getting those signals up hopefully in time for RockyOp. So all right, I'm going to do one last check for questions, since again I've got the screen turned back the other way, and then see if thanks Scott, glad you liked the tour, and hope everybody else did too. So all right, well, have a good evening everybody, and thanks again for joining, and I'll see you next time.